Yo, I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it off.
Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel where I review brands, products, and the companies that make them. So no other event during the summer epitomizes entertainment like that of the Coney Island hot dog eating competition. I mean, let's be honest. Watching gastro athletes smash as many hot dogs as humanly possible in 10 minutes is incredibly entertaining. There are several notable brands that are highlighted during the summer months, but in this event, one is especially emphasized. No other East Coast hot dog brand is celebrated more on the 4th of July than Nathan's Famous, and goes without question that Nathan's Famous notoriety is quite hard to surpass. If I had to pick an American company that operates a chain of food restaurants specializing in hot dogs, it would be Nathan's Famous, pending that I'm not in proximity to a Wiener Schnitzel. Now, my opinion might go by the wayside since I am located on the West Coast, and the question of who has the original hot dog or whose tastes better might be invalid, since that's usually a battle between East Coast rivalries. But the main question still stands: how did Nathan's Famous, get so famous? The simplest explanation I can give is that it's just a simple food business that started as a hot dog stand on Coney Island in 1916. Which has basically stood the test of time and has been an institution ever since. It's so famously named after its creator and co-founder Nathan Handwerker and his wife Ida. So during my research, I was actually shocked to learn that their humble beginnings mirror what you would expect a humble beginning to actually sound like. You see, Nathan and his wife were Jewish immigrants from Poland, and like the majority of immigrants during that time period, wanted to make a better life for themselves by immigrating to New York City more than 108 years ago in 1912. Shortly after arriving, Nathan was actually lucky enough to find work at another Coney Island landmark restaurant called Feltman's. And if that name sounds familiar, it certainly should. You see, Feltman's currently is the oldest running hot dog restaurant in New York, dating all the way back to 1860, and is cited with creating their first hot dog bun. So in retrospect, Nathan did in fact springboard from a very reputable source. Now, over the years, details surrounding the first-hand account of how Nathan's Famous developed is somewhat murky. There are several stories behind what happened after Nathan was at Feltman's, and much unfortunately is just speculation. However, we do know that he wanted to go into business in competition with Feltman's. So, Nathan and Ida, according to several sources, spent their entire life savings to begin the business at the first location on Coney Island, which is still in business to this very day and is just essentially a landmark. So much to anyone's surprise is how Nathan managed to outpace an already reputable brand like Feltman's. I mean, after all, Feltman's did have a 50-year head start in the hot dog sector. Well, to explain further on the success of Nathan's, detailing context is very, very important. You see, back in the olden days, hot dogs were seen as a questionable food item and considered unappetizing by many. Before hot dogs became a working-class street food and sold at stands and carts in baseball games like they are today, hot dogs went through an identity crisis. The ingredients in hot dogs were highly suspect because food regulations during that specific time period was in its infancy, and the quality was not really easy to spot unless someone got sick or yelled rat. This actually makes sense if you think about it, because during the early 20th century, sausage makers were suspected of using dog meat for frankfurters in Germany. Since consuming dog meat was actually a common thing to eat at the time, it really wasn't until 1884 that the term hot dog was actually coined. And now you know where the term comes from. Of course, I'm just being silly. There are several variants of the story of why hot dogs are called hot dogs, but I'm using that one because it sounds really cool. Okay, but what does that have to do with Nathan's? So the success of Nathan's took a small section from this specific part in history and was able to gain confidence of consumers by having college kids wear surgeon smocks and stethoscopes while eating to ensure people passing that Nathan's was sanitary and clean. Also, many people believed that young boys were mistaken for doctors eating hot dogs, which kind of gave the impression that the quality must be safe for consumption if doctors are eating them. In addition, Nathan charged much less for his hot dog than Feltman's, by charging 5 cents when Feltman's was charging 10 cents. This tactic energized the business, which proved to be immensely popular. This slight decrease of price might not have been a huge deal to most by today's standards, but all things considering, the average hourly wage in 1938 was about 25 cents an hour. So to go from 10 cents to 5 cents is a massive decrease in price. So think about that the next time your hot dog costs close to the minimum wage. It is mentioned several times that Nathan and his wife were not only good at branding and marketing, but labored 18 to 20 hours a day building Nathan's Famous into the world's largest hot dog stand. And as demand grew, the small hot dog stand began stretching and acquiring surrounding properties as it grew and expanded. Over the decades, Nathan's Famous became, well, more famous. Now, there are several independent events that would add to the already notorious hot dog brand. One example in particular in 1936, when President Franklin D. Roosevelt entertained King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. At a lawn party in Hyde Park, New York, Nathan's Famous were served, and of course the popularity continued to ensue. It was said that the famous gangster Al Capone even enjoyed eating there, and that they gave out free beer at the end of Prohibition, opened different locations in New York, and had their first hot dog eating competition in 1972, and of course started selling pre-packaged hot dogs for grocery stores in 1983. When interviewed, Nathan actually explained that his success is derived strictly from his policy, give them and let them eat, which he meant by give the customer the best quality and quantity for their money and the rest will take care of itself. Nathan eventually was legally named the president of Nathan's Famous Brands in 1968, the year the company went public. Eventually, Nathan and Ida took a backseat and the expansion of the chain was overseen by their son Murray. So after establishing and opening all restaurants and stands, all locations were sold by the Hanverker family to a group of private investors in 1987, at which point Nathan's was franchised and a great number of establishments were opened all around New York City and beyond. So you might be asking where they are now. Well, of course, as of September 2001, the company consists of 24 company-owned units, 380 franchise units in 50 different states, including Guam, District of Columbia, and 17 different foreign countries, including Afghanistan. Much recently, in March 2017, it was officially announced that Nathan's Famous had reached a sponsorship deal with Major League Baseball, allowing the company to market itself as the official hot dog brand of the MLB. So while Nathan is already the official hot dog brand of the New York Mets, the New York Yankees, the Miami Marlins, and St. Louis Cardinals, the deal marked the first time that a Major League Baseball had named an official hot dog sponsor. So as the summer of 2020 continues on, during this health pandemic, there is no question in my mind that Nathan's Famous will continue to be strongly rooted in American culture, and will continue to serve those iconic hot dogs for many more years to come. So that is it. That is all I have for you guys today. I will see you in the next one. Enjoy some Nathan's Famous, and have a great summer. Peace.